Tuning in to your favorite news destination, you're watching In Your Interest with me, Kabir Naqvi. A historic U.S.-Iran peace deal that is finally on the table, but Israel seems to be refusing to fall in line. So the big question is, can Donald Trump rein in a very arrogant Netanyahu? And then you've got the United Kingdom that says children under the age of 16 have had enough of social media. Let's bring their childhood back to them. Is it finally time for India as well to protect its own kids from the dangers of algorithm? And finally, from a lab in Noida comes a breakthrough that could change cancer treatment forever. Can this next generation CAR T-cell therapy stop cancer from coming back? We've got peace, we've got parenting, and a possible cancer breakthrough, all tonight on In Your Interest. Before that, the top headlines we're tracking for you. Prime Minister Modi hails the India-Slovakia ties, issues a joint statement with Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico. Both countries sign letter of intent on defense. Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi calls on students and job aspirants to join the Students' Echo protest in Kota on the 17th of June. The Congress leader accuses the government of failing India's youth through repeated paper leaks, cancelled exams and delayed recruitment processes. Kakoli Ghosh Dastidar takes charge as NCPI party president. Party president Shirley Kundu had resigned from the party and the position of the party president on the 28th of May. Kakoli Ghosh takes charge. RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat counters Karnataka Minister Priyank Kharge after he had urged him to disclose RSS's expenses. Bhagwat says RSS does not need registration. Hinduism does not need to be registered. Meanwhile, big boost to India's military power. The DRDO successfully tests indigenous long-range land attack cruise missile, showcasing growing self-reliance in advanced weapon systems. Meanwhile, a major aviation boost for the Delhi NCR region as Jewar International Airport in Noida commences its commercial operations. The inaugural flight from Lucknow carrying farmers from Jewar lands at the airport. A massive diplomatic development has just shaken up West Asia, but depending on which capital you really listen to, you're hearing two completely different versions of reality. United States President Donald Trump in Washington triumphantly announced that a deal with Iran is ready and a formal signing is scheduled for the 19th of June in Switzerland. On his social media platforms, President Donald Trump declared an end to the, a 100-day-long conflict, ordering an immediate lifting of the American naval blockade and declaring the strategic Strait of Hormuz open to the world. He even punctuated the moment by telling the global shipping industry to start their engines. But turn your eyes to Tehran, and the mood is far more cautious, even defiant. Iranian officials are stressing that this is merely a preliminary framework, a memorandum of understanding, not a final pact. They maintain that the crucial details, especially the exact terms of permanent sanctions relief, are to be rigorously negotiated over the next 60 days. Now, whilst Iran has agreed not to produce or acquire nuclear weapons under this initial draft, that focus remains fixed on securing hard ironclad guarantees before implementation fully begins. The fragile nature of this agreement was put to the test after a sudden Israeli strike on Beirut, nearly derailing the entire negotiation. President Donald Trump issued a rare public rebuke of the top U.S. ally, stating flatly that the strike should not have happened at a time when peace was so close. Iran's negotiators used the moment to slam Washington, arguing the attack proves the United States either lacks the will or the dynamic ability to control its own allies. Of course, talking about Netanyahu. And that brings us to the biggest wild card in this entire geopolitical puzzle, Jerusalem. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has completely rejected the terms, declaring that Israel is not a party to this memorandum and is absolutely not bound by it. Israel has made it clear that they will not withdraw from captured Lebanese territories and they will continue an independent security policy. Why is Israel so strongly against this agreement? There are 5 main concerns here. First up, the deal could give Iran a financial boost through sanctions relief. $12 billion is what we're learning. Second, Iran's nuclear capability is not being fully dismantled under the current terms. Number 3, Hezbollah could continue to operate in Lebanon. Number 4, limits on Iran's ballistic missiles are not clearly defined in this memorandum. And fifth, the agreement does not directly address Iran-backed proxy groups that threaten Israel and its neighbors.
Lebanon is not part of this agreement. The future of Lebanon has to be determined by the government of Lebanon, which is negotiating a peace deal with Israel at this point. So we will continue taking action as we have been taking this morning to continue dismantling the Hezbollah infrastructure in the south. And, at the end of the day, the Israeli cabinet will have to look at the text and will have to decide what it wants to do. We are not part of the agreement.
And this puts Donald Trump in a difficult position. A diplomatic breakthrough could still be derailed if Israel takes strong action. At the same time, putting pressure on Israel could upset his conservative supporters back at home. Donald Trump must try to balance Israel's security demands with the need to keep Iran at the table. And there is also a gap between the promises made in public and the actual details of the deal. And finally, any wider conflict in the region could drag the United States back into direct involvement. The big questions that we're trying to underscore tonight. Can you actually call something a deal when the two sides cannot really agree on what they have signed? How much does a U.S.-Iran deal actually mean if Israel is not part of it? If this deal collapses, what happens next? Pathikrit Pai, geopolitical analyst, with us on the broadcast. Many thanks for taking our time, Pathikrit. You've been helping us decode this right from the start. It's been about 100 days. Help put this into perspective here. You see, you've got almost every major stakeholder here. Washington, Tehran, Europe, the Gulf states. Aragchi also was cautious enough to dial Motegi in Japan to bring him in his fold. They've all welcomed this framework. But when Israel openly says that this deal does not bind us, I mean, is this an unprecedented public challenge to American diplomatic authority? The rift seems to be widening, but words like, you should be thanking us, Netanyahu is a difficult guy. Where do you see this peace deal happening? Because the next 60 days means rigorous negotiations that are still on the cards. But Israel could play that sport. So it's going to be a question of whether Donald Trump, beg your pardon, is going to be rein in a Netanyahu. What's your assessment here?
Good evening, Kabir. Well, there can be multiple players who can play a spoil sport. Trump is banking on Israel not attacking Lebanon. He is banking on Hezbollah not attacking Israel. He is also banking on hardliners in Iran not, waging another strike on the Arab states, or IRGC not attacking any ship in Strait of Hormuz. He is also hoping against all hopes that the negotiations on the nuclear issue will go according to what America feels it's justified. Look, let's put it this way. America wanted to do a Venezuela on Iran. They could not achieve it. Because Iran is a different country. It has a formidable arsenal. It has a strategic depth. So because they could not do it, I think somewhere, Trump administration was looking for an exit route because the midterm elections are coming. Inflation is becoming a very big problem within the United States. His own ratings have actually nosedived. So he was looking for some kind of an exit route. I think a lot of countries here feel shortchanged. It's not just the Israelis. You see, not a lot of Arab states might feel a little uncomfortable, or because of the concessions that are being given to Iran, because they feel that Iran, what the end objective was, for which the Arab states allowed literally the airspace to be used, has not been accomplished. So I think on one hand, Israel feels that their security considerations are being undermined, because it is a reality. There is only one country which arms Houthi, Hezbollah and Hamas, which is Iran. And therefore, their concerns have not been addressed by the Trump administration. Likewise, the Iranians themselves are very uncomfortable. They're not very coming out in the open to actually acknowledge the deal. They're not celebrating because they also feel that somewhat the other day the Israelis might wage another strike within Iran without the permissions of the Americans. And again, if the Iranians do not get the kind of concessions they feel they should get, then they feel that this entire negotiation or ceasefire will be a useless thing. For example, the Iranians would want that Iran should be allowed to come out of the sanctions and be a player in the international oil market. Now, if that happens, it's good for Iran, but a lot of Arab states will be very unhappy because that would lead to the crash in the price of oil. And that is not something which many OPEC countries or the oil traders want. Secondly, if Iran wants to be part of the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, backed by the European countries, and if America does not allow that to happen, then what happens next? Third, there is an institutional knowledge that Iran already has so far as enriching of uranium is concerned. The core issue is about the 440 kilogram of enriched uranium. Iran will not want to give it back. And that's where the problem arises. There is another issue, last but not the least. Within Iran, the biggest mistake the Americans and the Israelis did is by assassinating their supreme commander. So today, you do not have one single unitary supreme commander within Iran. They have a mosaic structure of leadership where you have multiple power points, power centers. So one side may agree to the ceasefire, one other side may not agree. They feel that why should we give the concession to the Americans?
No, you're right. A glimpse of which we saw during the Islamabad talks as well. The minute Arakchi went back home, the IRGC was really not happy with the kind of strength that was shown with, the entire airplane that went there, the entire delegation that went to Islamabad. Zaki Shalom, senior researcher, INSS, joining us live from Tel Aviv, also with us on the broadcast. Sir, I'm going to come to you in just a second. A quick follow-up here, Pathikrit. You see, you've just helped us understand that no party here is actually happy with the deal. So is this just another and yet another sham in the face and in the garb of a deal? Donald Trump, they're saying he's going to be in Geneva on the 19th of June, but it seems like it's going to be another moment of optics, not really an actual deal that can spell out peace for the entire region.
Kabir, we should look at it as an extension of the ceasefire rather than a peace deal. Number one, I am very optimistic that the Strait of Hormuz will get opened up because the high price of oil is pinching a lot of countries. But if you look at the track record of Middle East so far as peace accords are concerned, starting from the Oslo Accord in 1994, the history is not something worth talking about. There have been many instances where there is no guarantee that tomorrow America also will not do some defensive operation within that region by saying that, no, I'm not getting into a conflict, but this is a defensive operation. So there are so many subterfuges. No deal within that region is possible without the Arab states and Israel being part of it. So unless you take the Arab states into confidence, because the bulk of the assault by the Iranians have been on the Arab states and their critical infrastructures. So have they, had a discussion, taken into confidence the Arab states?
All right.
Israel has its own, considerations and threats. So there are multiple players and only two players are negotiating. That's where the problem starts.
No, you're absolutely right. I would even go on to say that there's just an unilateral vision at play over here. Not even the other person is coming in. It's all about what Donald Trump wants and how this could effectively benefit the United States' administration. Mr. Shalom is with us on the broadcast here. Sir, how do you look at this? Because you see, Donald Trump has called Benjamin Netanyahu, who's a very good friend, a very difficult guy. And he says, you should be thanking Washington. Even suggested Israel should be grateful to the Republican administration. How significant, from the Israeli point of view, is this public language between both these leaders? Donald Trump starting the day by saying that we finally come to a deal. Congratulations to all. And Benjamin Netanyahu clearly saying, hey, look, we're not part of it.
Look, I'm seeing things from a historical perspective. And I can tell you that since 1948, every major Israeli strategic move has been disagreed by the United States. And we did it without their agreement. So I'm not really very much excited and I'm not much very worried about this situation, because if you look at it in a historical perspective, you see this is just another collision between Israel and the United States. And in most cases, Israel acted on its own interest, and eventually the United States has to put up with it. So this again has to happen now. We showed even during this war that all the American position, the entrance into Rafah, the use of arms against hospitals in Gaza, and so on and so on. We were standing against the United States, and eventually we did what is good for our interests. So I think this again has will take place in this case.
Okay,
Eventually,
okay. But you see, sir, but I'm talking about the facts here, not the rhetoric. The United States says that a framework exists. How credible is this framework is a different question altogether. Iran says that it is ready to sign it. Europe, the Gulf nations, even some nations in Southeast Asia, the markets have heaved a sigh of relief. So they're all essentially welcoming it. But if virtually everyone wants to move towards de-escalation, Israel is acting as though the war must continue. That's what critics are saying. That's what it looks like from the outside. Israel wants the war to continue.
I don't think that your assessment is, with all due respect, is correct, sir. Because I think that there are many states that are surrounding Iran that want the war to go on and want Israel to defeat Iran. The Gulf states surrounding Iran want us, they are telling us secretly, go ahead with it and crush Iran. That's what they want. Nobody really wants.
But the Gulf states have been dilly-dallying for the longest time. The Gulf states have been dilly-dallying, and Patikrit, mentioned quite, to the point that it's important that the Gulf states are also taken into consideration. But we've seen it time and again, Patikrit, that the Gulf state also can't seem to make up their mind. They don't know exactly what side to choose here.
I think
well,
that
number one, there was a history of Iraq-Iran war going on for 8 years. There is a sectarian issue in Middle East that no one can deny. Thirdly, most of the Gulf states have benefited immensely at the cost of economic sanctions on Iran that keeps the price of oil high and that gives abnormal profit to the Arab states. This is a reality. Also, the problem for, if you look at Israel, I think, we will be a little unfair to blame Netanyahu. The fundamental security considerations of Israel are so profound that whoever comes to power, the core security concerns of Israel are not going to change, because Iran is not giving any guarantee that they would no more arm Houthis, Hamas or Hezbollah. That guarantee is not there, because these three non-state actors have been clearly created for one specific purpose, that is Israel. And these non-state actors have been a big menace and a problem even for the Arab states. That's why you see the Arab states did not side with Iran. They have been literally on the side of the Israelis when it came to this issue of dealing with Iran, because a powerful nuclear-armed Iran is a bigger concern for the Gulf states, Gulf Arab states, than even for Israel, because none of these Gulf states have the kind of weapon systems or the ability to fight a long-drawn war that Israel has. Last but not the least is that are the Americans themselves convinced about what they want to do? What is the guarantee tomorrow there will be no protest within or no reservation within America in terms of the concessions they're trying to give to Iran? That is the core issue. So I think, Trump has a habit of actually claiming more than what it actually in reality is. I think the midterm election is what they're doing it. They're trying to soothe down the price of oil they want to calm down the nerves for some time. But if we presume that the core issues have been addressed, they haven't been addressed.
So then that means that the reservations coming from the Israeli point of view are quite quote-unquote justified. Mr. Shalom, if we look at this framework that the United States has put out, what are some of the most fundamental sticking points from the Israeli POV?
Well, first of all, I want to put another perspective. We're heading towards elections. And, Netanyahu must come with as a victorious politician.
Fair enough, yeah.
This is a crucial thing. Trump is also a kind of midterm elections. So both we have kind of domestic issues that are also very much to take into consideration in this regard. Basically, I think that once Iran is crushed, and I want to tell you that I think that the Gulf states are talking in two languages. The one is in the public, the other side is in the secret. when they are talking with us, I think they are telling us they are telling us to go on in the war and to crush Iran. This is their interest and also our interest. So I think that the main thing that Israel has to ensure in this regard is that Iran will not be able to renew its nuclear project, and it will not be able to rearm with ballistic missile. We must ensure that. Otherwise, the public will send Netanyahu back to his home, and he
Okay.
knows it very well. I think it is
A very important point, Mr. Shalom, that you raised was that today the leader of opposition in the Knesset, he hit out at Benjamin Netanyahu as well. He's really not happy with how America is calling all the shots, and I think that's why Benjamin Netanyahu came out with a hard stance, saying that we're not, this new framework does not put us in a binding situation, and we're going to continue with our operations in Lebanon. Israel insists that Hezbollah must be dismantled before any meaningful peace or space for a peace dialogue can really emerge. But after months of fighting, and you're talking about crushing Iran, if anything, the last 100 days has told us that, it's going to be a mammoth of a task. It's going to be an uphill battle to crush Iran. And on the other hand, you've got the entire world that's dealing with the misadventures of United States and Israel. Is Israel trying to chase an objective that may be militarily impossible to achieve in a short span of time? And should the other half of the globe suffer because of that?
Well, I think that Israel is now in a position that is better than ever since its creation as a state, and we are considered to be kind of very great power, regional power in the region. Everybody knows the Israeli technologies, abilities. Everybody is aware of Israeli military options, and I think this has to be taken into consideration. Of course, we must take into consideration our relation with the United States, and there is a big gap between us and the United States. But eventually, Israel is in a position now to tell the United States that things that relate to our basic interests, we will not yield on that. And I think this will be understood, and eventually the United States would appreciate our position. This is my view.
Okay,
That
all right. My final follow-up to you, Mr. Shalom. You see, and I'm going to put it bluntly here, if the United States, Iran, Europe, the Gulf countries, you earlier dismissed this assessment. It's not mine. It's actual facts and figures. Much of the international community, they're collectively trying to move towards a settlement of sorts. Let's just call it that at the time being. What is exactly Israel's alternative plan beyond bombing, beyond more occupation, and beyond more prolonged war per se?
Well, I think that, if there is Hezbollah, for example, stop launching rockets against Israel and stop firing against Israeli settlement in the Galil, I don't think that we are going to escalate the warfare. Eventually, we want quiet. And we want to ensure that the states that are surrounding us will not pose any more strategic threat on Israel. This is achievable, I think, and it's in our hands, and I think we are going to achieve it. I think we are going to come to a new era with peace for long period of time.
All right. Patikrit, my final question to you. You say, Mr. Shalom here says that Israel wants quiet, but if this quiet is coming at the cost of tacit revenge, I mean, there's always going to be an answer coming from the other side. So I've asked you this question again. Has that assessment really changed? The last time I asked you what is going to be the end game here, for months the story was America and Iran, and suddenly this new friction has sort of come into play. It's America and Israel as well. So, it's a triangular love triangle that's gone sour. The center of the crisis, it's shifting with each passing day. How do you see this, coming to an end?
Well,
I think the primary conflict is between Iran and Israel. America is still a distant player, and that's what the Israelis have the grudge, that you stay somewhere else across the Atlantic. You don't face what we face. That is the Israeli, talking point. So I think till the time Hezbollah continues firing on Israel, the Israelis will retaliate on Lebanon. And that is the condition that Iranians have put, that any attack or any strike by the Israelis into Lebanon is something that will be considered as a violation of the entire peace framework. So everybody has put somebody else into a tight knot. That is why, against all odds, to presume that this peace framework is going to work will be a little far-fetched. We can at most consider this as an extension of ceasefire. I believe that there will be peace for some time, but there are too many ifs and buts on which Trump is hoping for. And even if, because that's back home midterm election that is that is going to be a reality. Otherwise, right now, I don't see an end game. It is going to continue for quite some time. Back to
Okay, it's going to continue. I think we're going to stick to that, because the operative part that you said was this is a tight knot. It's not a peace deal. It's a tight knot. It's a tight knot for everybody. If anything at all, it's an extended ceasefire. Let's stick to that, because the peace deal, it may be signed on paper. We don't even know whether that's going to actually turn into a reality come the 19th of June. But the real test will begin on the ground. And it seems like this entire war is not heading that way. If Israel refuses to fall in line, the question is not whether Donald Trump can make a deal with Iran. The question is whether he can make his closest allies stick to this peace deal. We're going to be keeping a track on each and every twist. Many thanks for joining us, Pathikrit. Many thanks, Mr. Shalom, for taking out the time and helping us out with your point of view here on this first segment as well. We're going to quickly slip into a commercial breather. On the other side, we're going to talk about the United Kingdom's social media ban and whether India should follow suit. Don't go anywhere.
Digital arrest, take back. They warranted. You are under digital arrest.